Welcome, Titus. Sad day yesterday. We all learnt in the afternoon that Danny Spud Frawley had passed away. How are you? How did you get the news?
Well, I was actually at the Premier's Golf Cup Challenge doing a gig last night, and so I got there in the afternoon, and Brendan Favola came up to me and said that I heard, and
Right.
it hadn't even been announced at all at this point, and there'd sort of been a little bit on social media because there were quite a few people, we should say, who went on social media very early and named Danny
Yes.
as the person when family and police hadn't even announced it, which
Yeah.
was not great.
Irresponsible.
So that's when I found out, and it's funny how something like this, because I know Brownie, you knew him personally very well, and I'd met him once at a function, but I didn't know him well, and it reminds me when Phil Walsh died, an Adelaide coach. And you kind of think, well, why do you care about this in a way? Like, it's not someone you personally know. And I know there's a lot of people you look online and they're really quite hurting. And it's the thing about football, which is we all know deep down football is kind of stupid. Like, real fans know this.
It is a game.
We know it's a game. We choose to make something important because we decide it's important. You know, it's only because we all collectively decide it's important that it is important, because at its base, it's, you know, it's completely silly. But so people often wonder why us footy fans and people who play footy and work in footy and all that actually pour all that energy and emotion. I mean, I'm a guy who can be feeling flat all week because a group of 20-year-olds didn't perform well against another group of 20-year-olds on the weekend, which is a very odd thing to do. You know, you don't randomly pick a group of 20-year-olds in a nightclub and decide how they perform tonight's going to be my mood for the week.
That's so true.
But the thing that people don't get who aren't sports fans, and it's fine that they don't because they often have other things, but the thing is we know it's silly, but we know it's got meaning because we give it meaning, and it gives us all a connection to a community.
That's
so
right.
I can now go into any state of Australia. I can go to lots of functions. I bump into people on the street all the day. You would get this all the time, Brownie, and I know Sam does from working on the front bar, and Dino from working on that show that was on Foxtel for a week.
Dino, maybe not as much, to be honest.
But you get people that come up and talk to you, and that's the connection that. So it's about these connections that you make.
Absolutely.
And these connections that you have with groups of people who you have nothing in common with and don't even know. Other footy, it doesn't have to be someone famous like Danny Frawley. It can be another footy fan. And so what people are feeling this morning, a lot of people, is it's that connection breaking.
Yes.
You know, they don't have to know him personally to feel quite low, because he's been a huge figure, but it's also someone you know who cared immensely about something you cared about, and admired the same people, enjoyed the same people, and that's why there's this reaction from people this morning.
And someone who
last
made
night.
you feel good about your obsession and your commonality.
Well, like, someone who just achieved so much in that world that we all love. You know, man. Some people forget he was a great player, great fullback,
A terrific player.
He was a captain of a club for 9 years. That
Amazing
says
effort. Like,
something.
He'll be probably in the top 10 longest serving captains in the history of the game. 177 games captain, quite amazing, and shows his leadership qualities. I think he was just so approachable too. You know, he's the country boy, he's the spud farmer, obviously hence the nickname. But he's such a lovable larrikin, if you want to call that, and I mean that in the kindest way. But he's such an approachable man, and such a warm, giving person to so many people in the community. I think that's why it's so sad, even if you don't really know him. And you know, I know him, and I was a mate, but I wasn't a close mate like a lot of the other boys in the same industry are. But you've got that connection with him. Yeah.
Well, and don't you think with Danny it was always, you know, from my observation, comparing him to a lot of people in the footy, and especially the footy media, because he was in that for so long, there wasn't any guile about him. And I mean that in a nice way.
Yeah.
So I remember, so that came across when he was being humorous, but actually around the things that stuck with me very much is, you know, he was working as the head of the Coaches Association during some of the Essendon stuff, and you could tell he was really struggling with it. And a lot of other people would have, you know, been not very open and honest about how they were feeling about it, but he was just giving these raw interviews at the time that were just, you just had someone who you just really got a sense of, where some of the people who are in the media on the footy, like Brownie here, they're just too slick.
Yes.
But you know what I mean? They don't have
Thank
that
you.
like.
First time we've been referred to as.
that was it's a good thing to remember. He spoke honestly about that whole situation because despite he was thinking about the coach's best interest at the time at Essendon,
Yeah.
but also had this kind of a love and custodian of the game, that he worried about the game as well. So he was really torn, and it wasn't black and white for him. And that he was very honest
I
at
think
the
it was a
time.
pretty heavy cross to bear for him. As
No,
well,
that's what
you know,
came
at the
across.
time.
He didn't do the thing which a lot of people did, who would sort of pretend everything was fine, or they were. He really showed how hard it was, and you know, but he was like that when he was being amusing too. Like, you know, you could tell when he was laughing on TV. You know, he'd do the bounce with Dunstall and things like this was a guy it wasn't an act. He was genuinely amused. I mean, some of the stuff him and Dunstall used to get up to on the bounce.
It's classic.
I mean, it was like watching two 6-year-olds carry on.
Yeah.
But you could just tell they just loved each other. And it was just, you know, they were having an absolute ball.
Yeah.